And I know we have some people that are new on here that found out about us at family reunion. So if you can tell, my voice is usually not this sexy, and I'm definitely sick. And it was really important to me. Okay, this is what just I wanted to be here because that was yeah, like this is some people's first call, and it's really important. What I am gonna do normally these calls are an hour, so I do like 30 minutes of content, and then you can head out if you want, and then 30 minutes of Q&A. So I'm just gonna do the content today, but normally they're an hour, and then this is live streamed on my personal Facebook, and then we've got notes and all kinds of stuff for you as well. So yeah, and then we'll ask for some ahas. So if you were there, you'll have a chance to share what that is. So, anyways, if this is your first time to the call, welcome. Thank you so much for being here and coming to the presentation. So we had, if you don't know what that is, and this call is for everyone, not just KW. We want to make it accessible to everybody. But Keller Williams has this big event every year called Family Reunion, and it's like 10,000, sometimes 16,000 people. And we had a breakout panel with Jay Popzon and then Tony Giordano, who are both like pretty big celebrities, I would say, that have ADHD. And so that is in KW ADHD. And we're getting that to YouTube as well. If you want to watch that, that was live streamed. So we have that. The group is free. And then if you do want more, we have a private like coaching community called ADHD Agents. So that's just if you want more. There's a lot of free stuff. But if you want master classes and you want direct access to me, we donate a large portion of nonprofits every month from your membership fee. And then every month we have a master class trainer. So we have a recap of the two master classes we had this Thursday, the next Thursday. And then we start with Rachel Adams-Lee for social media. So that's at ADHDagents.com if you want to do that. Okay, so the recap. So this is really cool, and I'm going to share this with you. I'm going to give all the credit for this to Jess Weber. If you know who that is, Jess Weber did incredible notes, and you don't even want mine when you look at hers. And so I'm going to share the link right now, and just let me know if you can open this. But this is what we're going off, and I'm going to give you a review. And this has all of the notes, like what we're predicting for the future. I'm just going to do a screen share because why not? So where's the market heading? They have researchers that are the best like possible. And so they have like the state of the market. And these are the notes. So that link I just shared with you, this is yours. Thank you to Jess Weber for this. But it has the market updates, annual medium, like home price data, the trend lines, what they're predicting, the mortgage rates. I'll show you, but you can see like what to say. So these were like the highlights of the biggest events for the most part. And then at the end, we have the ADHD Advantage. So this was the breakout we did with the leaks and then the notes. So, I mean, there's a lot of really great stuff. So if you weren't able to be there in person, or you're like me and maybe your notes aren't as pretty, thank you to Jess Weber for this. She's amazing. So the first thing I want to go and like I'm gonna ask for some ahas, probably like 20, depends on my voice, but probably 10 minutes before the end. I want to ask for ahas that people who went to the event and just see what stuck out for you, especially as we can see like an ADHD brain, what stuck out to you. I thought that'd be really neat. And what I want to go through is some of the highlights of these things that are going to help you in a big way. And then also, especially with these stats, these are things that you can incorporate into your buyer and seller presentations when you're doing those, because I mean, majority of agents, like 98% probably, well, let's say 95%, probably don't have stats. I mean, they don't have these stats for sure. And so if you have any kind of like, maybe you're not confident, or maybe you are confident and you want to just really nail it, having statistics, you can't argue with stats. So I'll bring those in when we go through the state of the company. But this first part was the CEO summit. So not everybody was actually able to go to this.
Look at this looks like it's only on my desk.
So yeah, not everybody was able to go to this, and so you can see there's some like they talked about comparison. Has anybody compared before, especially with ADHD? I 100% have, or compared yourself to someone who doesn't have ADHD. Like, why is that so easy for them, right? Or like, what do you mean they can just do laundry? That's insane. Or they can just time block and read a book for 15 minutes every day. That's crazy. And so comparison, especially when we have a different brain and we're trying to play this neurotypical game and try to like I mean, you might be someone that reads 15 minutes a day and you do little habits. For me, because I've got the hyper focus, right? I'm going to do better. Probably, I'm just going to get a random stroke and I'm going to read through half a book in like one day, and I'm not going to want to do anything else. And I might get through a book faster than someone who does it 15 minutes a day. So it's about learning how your brain works instead of trying to fit it into something or thinking like, man, why can't I do it this way? If you've tried something a certain way multiple times and it's not working, it's not that you're not trying hard enough. It might not be the way for you. And I see that as a coach. If you don't know me, I've done over 10,000 one-on-one calls with ADHD agents. And then I ran a team in the top 100 in the world for KW. And I'm telling you, like, the more that you work with your brain, the better. So I won't like read every detail on here, but I want to point out as you're going through to have a framework of like comparison in social media. And in the ADHD breakout with Tony Giordano, he talked about just unfollowing anybody. If you're on social media and you're like, oh man, they got the listing, or oh man, look at how perfect that is. He just unfollows them right away. Like, he's not even going to do that. So that might be something to practice. And then they talked about purposeful living, that it's a choice. And so, especially when, I mean, if you're like me, I've had some like self-worth stuff for sure, like years and years of therapy, because we get 20,000 negative messages about our behavior by the age of 8. If you have ADHD, 20,000 messages about our behavior by the age of 8. So if you have self-worth stuff, like, you're normal, duh, right? And so for me, right, I had this big team and it wasn't enough. And I was like chasing achievement to think like, okay, like once I hit this achievement, it's going to be good. So I got on this like hamster wheel, I guess, for like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years of when I hit this, then I'll be okay. And then it was in my head, I'll be successful when I hit this number. And what was really cool that they talked about is there's so much more to life than that. Like, if you're in that, if you feel like, oh man, my numbers aren't what they should be, then like I'm not good enough. No, there's so many other things to live for than that are a mark of achievement. Or let's say your numbers are really high, and you feel really good about it, but you don't have other things filled out, like, you're not going to feel 100% fulfilled. And there's a richness in the depth that is going to be available to you by looking at what are the meaningful relationships. Like, if you have a spouse or a family member, what are you putting in? What are the experiences you're having? What are the things that you love? And it might be your big why is literally just doing a really good job every day and connecting with your sellers, developing your soul. So there's a lot of really good stuff in here. I'm not going to go through all of it, but it's just really good. And her notes are so good. So thank you again. So take a look at that. That's the CEO Summit. So that's going to be a little bit more about the bigger picture. And there's some really wonderful people in here. You can search these on Facebook and follow them. Julia Lachey, my goodness. That is a really powerful human being who has really advocated in Keller Williams for DEI. And right now is being so resilient. I'm going to cry. Like, I'm so proud of her. And like, that's a hard position to be in. And there's like stigma around that word and all that stuff. And she's holding strong. She's a really powerful person. So I want to throw that out there. She's a really good person to follow. If you feel like things are hard right now, as an example, I mean, Sean Cannell is really great. So lots of really wonderful people on here. So check that out. So here's the state of the market. And am I going too fast, or is this okay? Is this good? Okay. So with ADHD, we process fast. So when I'm talking with people with ADHD, I don't have to mask and slow down because our brains have 10 times the amount of thoughts as someone without ADHD. And so that's the beauty. So just let me know if I go too fast, but usually this actually helps people pay attention. The last person I mentioned to follow, Julia Lachey. That's somebody I'd look up on Facebook. Okay, so state of the company. So this is where, when you're at those appointments, this is where you're going to win and you're going to stand out by having these stats. And also, it's knowledge for you. So when you're out there, it might help you figure out what angle to like focus on, to direct your attention to get more sales. If we look, 74% of mortgages have rates less than 5%. Okay, so 74% of mortgages have less than 5%. And so what kind of objection might you get? I mean, if you're not getting it already, people have lower mortgage rates. And so when you're thinking about your lead gen source, and I'm a fan of having like 3 or less and getting mastery versus like a jack of all trades, right? You might think about your lead gen sources and you might angle them to go for people that might be in the 26%, It might be that you go for cash, people who own their home. Might be people that have to sell. They have the 3 Ds of death, divorce, and debt, right? People who have to, versus let me just call people that have this low mortgage rate and try to outscript them, right? So having stats like this is going to give you more strategy. And when we're like in the day to day, because I mean, people with ADHD, there's a reason that over half of the agents in the top 100 in the world have ADHD. There's a reason if you look at the leadership, tell me someone that doesn't have ADHD. I'm sure there's somebody, but the majority in big positions have it. And we're finding that out the more we have these conversations. So take a step back and just think a little bit smarter instead of working quite as hard, and just pause for a second on strategy. And that's where you could put the same amount of effort in and have 3 to 4 times the return that somebody else does. There's a little bit about the Canadian market. We have the economy here. So unemployment's below 4%. Ideal is less than 6%. There might be like people are saving less money over time. So check out these like different stats about the economy and where things might be, the tariffs. So again, these are really good to just kind of read through. If you don't understand them, if you haven't used ChatGPT, because I've like felt overwhelmed sometimes with stats, like what do I do with this? What does this mean? Especially if you have a learning disability, just throw it in ChatGPT and say, hey, can you like copy paste? Can you interpret this for me? Or what does this mean? I use it like literally every day. I have like a mental block around math or just all. So I trust it's okay. I'm sure. I just want you to know if you have this, like you're not alone, right? I've done like really big things and I've got all these things that I found like really cool tools around and you can do really great stuff. So that's me. You might not have that stuff. But since I was a kid, I used to say where there's a will, there's a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. Okay. Let's see, where was the other part? So they talked about, let's see, the homes. I think let's see, where did I see that? Like within the next couple of years, it should pick up. I looked at this before, but that's what they're saying. But it is going to be like kind of like it is for a while. That's just how it is, right? Is we're going to be in this for a little bit longer. And so I think we probably know that at this point. We're getting more used to it. So think if nothing changed over the next 2 years, what would you need to adjust to hit your goal? Like if nothing changed, how would you thrive? What do you need to shift? What kind of support do you need? What kind of environment? Does your environment match your goals for what you want to do? Because those are all really important. And again, your brain thinks differently. You're good under pressure. You're good under stress. You have 10 times the amount of thoughts of someone without ADHD, so you're going to think creatively, intuitive. As a coach for 10,000 one-on-one calls, I tracked it for about, I can't remember, it was like at least 4 years. And the conversion rate of an ADHD agent, undeniably, it took them half the amount of conversations for the same amount of closings. Half. So the average agent took 120 conversations for one closing. An ADHD agent took 60. So remember, you are on average doing half the amount of conversations as a non-ADHD agent because of your intuitiveness, your authenticity. Not that they're not, right? But just as a demographic, those are the patterns. And so if you've had shame or self-esteem stuff like we all have, it's really important to counteract that and remind yourself of that. So these are really neat stats that you can look at and integrate. If you see anything in here you like, you could put it in a slideshow presentation. I've done that before for a listing presentation, and I send it before I go on the listing appointment. Sometimes they watch it, and I don't even have to do a listing presentation. So there's all kinds of ways to leverage, but if you don't have to do that, but it's neat if you have ways to do stuff that can kind of save time. So personal brand, I mean, who wouldn't want more brand recognition, right? Like everybody. So these are 7 steps to achieve true success. Your personal brand. So these are these are notes on that, exactly what to say. This is really neat too, of like, and this is great, of what to do, how to handle conversations, how to use your words, like justifying your fees, right? If you have people asking you to lower your commission rate. And then we had onward bold. So this is conversations about like fear. and mindset, and vision, small steps, mega agent panels. So these are all the panels. Um, you can see that. So just a lot of really good stuff here. So you can see all this leadership, procrastination on purpose. So yeah. So what I'm going to do, so you have that, there's a little bit. What I would suggest is you don't have to do this all in one night. You don't. So what you may do, unless you're just super motivated, is maybe look at like this, like one of these each week for the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 weeks. You could totally do that and then actually implement on it and slow down. Or you could kind of flood yourself. It just depends on how your brain works. But if you just literally took one page and you went for mastery on that and you only focus on that for like 6 months, you do really well. So that's another thing that I want to throw out there is it's okay to like slow down and go for mastery versus just overwhelm yourself. And speaking from experience, right? So chunk it down and go for mastery and go really deep. So I want to spend the next like 4 minutes on the ADHD panel, and then we're gonna kind of open it up for questions. Okay, and that link, Brittany, if you could keep sharing that in the chat, if anybody comes on late for these notes, that would be really helpful. Okay, so first we had Jay Papazon, who's the author of The One Thing. I've got his Facebook there. He is a pretty big deal, very humble, very incredible person. And he co-wrote the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book and the One Thing book, which was like New York Times bestsellers for like years and years. And he has ADHD and he's got kids with ADHD. And his wife is neurotypical. She doesn't have ADHD. And so that recording is in the group. And then Brittany, if we can get that in the ADHD Real Estate Mastermind too. So you can hear from somebody who's extremely successful that works directly with Gary Keller, right? CEO, billionaire, founder of Keller Williams, that has ADHD and has wrote a book on how to focus. That was so big to have him there. And so there's questions about how he relates to like a non-ADHD partner, parenting. He's got a kid with autism as well as ADHD. So I would definitely check out that and just listen to the audio. So he was first. And that was like a Q&A with questions from the group. And then we had Tony Giordano. And this is where I'm going to focus on the content. So with Tony, what I did is I talked about, it was basically called the ADHD advantage. And what I talked about was really with ADHD, it's about regulating your dopamine. Like that's really, like that's the secret, I'm telling you. So regulating your dopamine, because we have lower dopamine levels than someone without ADHD, but sometimes we can have a surplus. So it's kind of like two extremes, right? So it's like, man, I can't think in your head or say it out loud or raise your hand, like, I can't get motivated. Who's heard of that? Like, I just can't get motivated, right? I just can't focus. Man, I forgot that again. I just need to get organized. I just need systems. Why can't I sit still? Or maybe emotion regulation, like trouble with emotion regulation, or it's like, I really want to be doing this. I really want to be present, but I can't. I'm like crawling out of my skin. So those are all can be signs of low dopamine. We have lower dopamine levels. The benefit to that is having lower dopamine is we're really calm under pressure. We're really good under pressure, which is why we do so well as entrepreneurs, where other people, like how many people have gotten a real estate, but it's too stressful? How many? I mean, it's insane, right? The amount of people that get into real estate and they watch the shows on TV and they're super psyched on it and they fall short. They can't do it. They can't go by it, but like they can't do commission. They can't handle the pressure. They don't want to negotiate. It's like they literally can't do it and they get their license and they get out. I don't know what the stat is now, but it's like 80% of people don't make it past the first year or something. It's insane. So even if you've sold one house, you've beat out, like you're in the top 20% or 5%, really. And so that's the gift. And you may not know that that's not normal. Well, it's not. You are special. Like you can handle more stress. And that's why we have so many like big people and celebrities and performers and inventors, Albert Einstein, like everybody who's good under pressure, emergency workers, surgeons. We need ADHD people in our lives, in our communities, in our society. We need it because other people crumble. Our dopamine levels go baseline when there's chaos, and then we're actually calm. And so on the flip side, too much dopamine, or let's say a surplus, You hyper focus on something and you literally forget what time it is. Or it's towards the end of the day and it's like, I didn't even eat. Or I just ate a little bit. I forgot lunch. Or, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize I need to like go to the bathroom, you know? We just hyper focus on something. Or you just keep going and people are like, I'm tired, I'm leaving. And you're like, oh, I'm good, let's go. So there's a surplus of dopamine as well. And dopamine is the thing that helps us focus, it helps us prioritize, organize, it regulates our mood. And so it's really about regulating your dopamine. And that's when it comes down to this acronym called INCUP. And this is when the panel, what we did is I talked about INCUP, this analogy, which I'll tell you. And then I asked Tony, he's like the crypto expert on CNBC. He's like been on Bravo TV. He's like a real estate celebrity. He wrote the social media playbook. He's like done all these different projects and excelled in a big way. He's just incredible. He just auditioned for Sniper 2, the movie. That's ADHD, right? So what I did is with each letter, I asked him a question about it to see how he integrates INCUP in his business and his life to be successful. So INCUPs, and these are the 5 things that create dopamine in our brain. INCUP stands for interesting, new, challenging, urgent, and passion. Interesting, new, challenging, urgent, and passion. So think about it. If something's interesting, you probably won't have as much trouble focusing, right? If it's new, or it's like, oh, I need to go to a new coffee shop. I need a new drink, or like, oh, let me go shopping or something, right? Creates dopamine. If it's challenging, if it's urgent, or if it's a passion. So these are 5 things that create dopamine. And so when I'm coaching somebody, if they say, man, I just need to get motivated, what we've done is we've shifted it to, you need to get dopamine. It's not about, it can be an affirmation, it creates dopamine, but it might be that you need a walking desk, or you might need to like listen to music, or you might need a coffee drink that costs $5, but then you can get 3 hours of work done, or you might need to go to a new environment, or maybe like that lead gen you're doing is really not the one for you. And we're missing out because you could be in something that's part of your passion that you don't have to use discipline for. So that's how we use this. So interesting, right? Change things up, tie your lead generation to something you care about that's interesting. Rotate where you make your calls from. New, and again, there's a lot of notes here, but new, like try different scripts if you want. Change your lead time around or your schedule. Has anyone think, man, I just need to be more consistent? Has anybody thought that? I just need to be more consistent. Okay. What I would say is, depends. But for me, if I told myself that, I would just beat myself into shame every day. So the thing that I'd recommend that works for most people, again, everybody shows up differently, is be consistent with the objective, not how you do it. So it really doesn't matter how you do it. It just matters that you do it. And so we do really well with structure, but if it's too much structure, it's too rigid, we rebel, there's no dopamine, we can get depressed, and it just like it sucks. It's not fun. So an example that I do for me, and that's worked for other agents, is with your schedule, like time blocking. I'm going to have 3 different schedules that are about like when I might start at a different time, I might do a workout at a different, like A, B, and C. And I'm going to run that schedule. Like maybe I get up and work out and I do my lead gen and then I do whatever. And I'm going to run that. When it feels stale and I'm having to use discipline, AKA dopamine, I don't want to use my dopamine on it. So I'm going to go to my schedule B. And now I sleep in. And I work out in the evening and I go play basketball or skateboard or, go do stuff with friends or go running. And then when that gets stale, I'm going to go to plan C, which I work out at lunch and I walk the dogs for an hour. Right. And then I do a different type of lead gen. So then when C gets stale, I go back to A. So instead of like beating myself up, kind of half doing the schedule for days and days until I just can't do it. And then I feel like crap. I don't even push myself. I know, again, it depends on the person, but I would say discipline is not a big thing in my toolkit. I'm going to go with my brain. And if I can achieve the same thing in a different way, who cares? Like, you don't have to be consistent because you might deplete your dopamine. And I don't want to do that because then you get depressed too. Like, I want dopamine. It's the happy chemical. So this is your guide. So make it challenging. It could be competing with yourself. Like you could do a challenge with somebody, do it for a week. And then urgent. Okay, I guess I will go over a little bit, then half an hour, because I just love this and it's making me forget I'm sick. So I'm probably going to go over the 30 minutes. But we'll still do ahas and not quite as long. I just get excited, right? This is my passion, right? I'm literally sick. And when I'm not on this call, I feel like death, but I want to be here more than anything. This is an example. See, I don't need discipline to be here at all. Like nobody could stop me from it. So that's like that's where you need to be. That's your joy zone, and nobody can compete with you. I don't have to time block this in, right? So uh, challenging. You have urgent. So this is really big. So we have body double Zoom room that you can go in anytime in KWHD, and we'll work to get something like that as well for the other stuff. But a body double Zoom room, so you can go in the chat and coordinate. And what this is it creates urgency. If someone else is there with you, it helps you do the thing. It creates dopamine. So an example would be this happens to me all the time. It's like, man, I need to clean the kitchen. Let's say I really need to clean the kitchen, and it's like, I'll do it after work. Man, I'll do it in the morning. It doesn't happen. And then your friend says hey, I'm in the neighborhood, can I stop by in like an hour? And you're like, yeah, totally. And then all of a sudden, right, the kitchen's clean in like an hour because you could just do it and you have dopamine, right? So there's urgency. All of a sudden you can do it. So it's not procrastination. I wouldn't use it. It's really called executive dysfunction. It's a lack of dopamine. You're not lazy. There's literally no fuel and your brain's not lighting up. So another thing you might do to make your brain light up is turn on music or set a timer. Set a timer and say, this might take 30 minutes. Let me try to do it in 15. Let me do it fast, or have somebody watch you. So body doubling is really big. As a side note, because we go to urgent things, have you ever had that where there's something you should be doing, but instead of you do it, you're like, oh, the seller called, this is urgent, I better pick it up. But really, it's not that urgent. Anybody else done that? So your brain's like, ooh, dopamine. Yeah, dopamine machine, let's go. So there's a flip side to that where you're going to be drawn to stuff that maybe you should put a back burner on or put your phone on silent. So just know that creates dopamine, and you might be prioritizing stuff over other stuff.
Oh, okay.
And then passion. So pair with passion with your lead gen. If you're not sure what to do, partner with a charity and donate a percentage of every sale to a charity, and have a volunteer list or door knock, or your client events could be going to an animal shelter or doing a fundraiser, right? There's no rules here. I want to make that really clear. And we think outside the box, and it's just really neat. So go with your brain instead of trying to force it into a certain box, because I'm telling you, you're just going to get tired. And if you're waiting for some breakthrough on time blocking or lead gen, and you've been waiting for that breakthrough for 2 years, please stop trying to do it that way. That way is not for you. Try a different way. Work with your brain and just play with it. Try and experiment for a week to incorporate this instead of trying to run that same play that hasn't been working for 2 years. Do time blocking different, spice it up, do lead gen different. Maybe you need to sleep until 10 and just shift your schedule to later, and that's how your brain works. Just play with it. It's not going to hurt for you to do it for a week. So that's really what I want to really just put out there. So much is our society, our world, the average population is 3 to 5% have ADHD. 3 to 5, maybe 8%. It depends on the study, right? So our world is not built for an ADHD brain. It is a different structure. We have 4 parts of the brain that develop differently, that respond differently to stimulus, that have different variations of neurochemicals. And so we're in this world that's not built for us, and it's nobody's fault, right? And so it's really important to work with your brain. I just want to say that over and over again. Like they say, don't be a fish that's trying to climb a tree. Get in the water, baby. I feel emotional. It's just change people's lives to switch it up, switch it up and go with your brain, because it's really brilliant. And I've seen so many people do so many amazing things by working with their brain and just getting out of the shame. So that's so I've got some more notes on there, and so watch the recording for that. These are some really good resources. These are my top 3 favorite main ones for ADHD, and then a good article, and then about the different types. So there's a lot. And again, this is what we do on these calls, are every single week. But these are just extra bonus notes and myths. So you've got these notes and then the whole thing from the event. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it up. We just shared in the chat. So I want to open it up for anyone that was at the event that had an aha. I'd love to hear what you took away. Brittany.
Let me know if you can hear me, because I have both going.
Yeah. Okay. Brittany's my amazing number. Well, I would say I don't know if number 2 is appropriate, but
that's okay.
My partner in crime.
Yeah, there you go. I like that better. I'm laughing and I'm gonna start crying myself because, I've seen this twice now. I've seen people's lives change in the rooms where you do these things. I've seen people's lives change on these calls that you do. This family reunion was my second. Holy crap, was it so different? Because there was half the people, but it was, and a lot of people like some of them complain because there's half the people, but I'm like, listen, look around you at what's happening right now, because so many of us got to connect on a deeper level that like, I'm not just referring to some random agent that I know who is a KW agent. No, no, no. I'm referring to a friend made family member. I'm able to like sit down and have conversations with people. That's what we were able to do at this family reunion. And then to be able to sit and see, especially at our event, because like of course I'm gonna just, I mean, all over ours, right? Um, to be able to have a vulnerable conversation at 7 o'clock in the morning with Tony and Jay, and like to hear them say these things that like, yes, my son is autistic. Yes, this is what we've gone through. This is what I've done. And then both of them validated me for something that I do, which is I have my non-negotiable mornings. I do not want to do real estate before 10 o'clock because my brain doesn't turn on for actual things that I need to do before 10 o'clock. So I don't. They validated me for that. And like I took that back, like that power back. And then also validating me for going to Disney and working, because it makes sense to me to work at Disney, not at home. Because at home there's laundry, there's dishes, there's everything else. But at Disney, my brain's quiet. I can do whatever I want to do because I'm there. So like hearing them give permission essentially to do the things that like make sense for you and for your business, powerful. And I promise I'm going to get the recording up. I'm working on it tonight. I'm sorry. It like literally
You're
this family
good.
reunion has
We
been
both
so
got
good.
sick. You got sick too. Do you hear
Yeah.
that? Do you hear the passion in her voice? Like that's that ideally like your business, we'd want to find an angle for that. Like that's in that, and really one of the biggest things you can do is figure out how to get your lead sources. Like if you're doing lead sources that you're not excited about, and you think you should be doing it, but you don't really want to, or you really don't like calling, stop calling, do client events. If you really don't like doing Sphere, like cold call. I mean, again, there's no right way to do it, but if you get in your passion, it's not going to take the same out of you. Where if you've ever had that, you get home and you have nothing left, and you can't even take care of yourself. I mean, I've been there. Have you had it where you can't feed yourself? It's like the house gets a mess and you can't do any of it because you've used all your dopamine. Like think of it as a fuel tank. So you want things that give dopamine versus take away, and it shows up not just in your business, like you enjoy life more.
Can I just say one more thing just to point
Yeah.
it out because you said it?
Yeah.
When Tony Giordano said the thing about unfollowing the people who don't like they don't align with you, unfollow. Like something that I heard a long time ago, and most of the people that are around me have said, heard me say this: be blessed, be blessed. Like go away because I don't need that. I cannot be around people who do not align with the things that I want to do for my life, my business, everything else. And like give yourself permission to get away from that because it's going to change your entire mindset and your entire life. Just saying.
Yeah. Yep. Awesome. Awesome. All right, Misty. Hey.
Hello, how are you?
Hey. Good to see you.
My first call. I've
Welcome.
done this. I didn't even know this was a thing until I saw stickers on the Facebook page at Family Reunion. So two ahas or whatever from Family Reunion. One of the things that Jay said, which I always knew that I struggled with time and being on time. And he had said something along the lines of, and I'm going to quote him poorly because I'm bad. Something along the lines of, if you are focused on the task, you can't be focused on the time. But if you're focused on the time, you can't focus on the task. And so he would set the watch to help keep time. And that line in and of itself was worth its weight in gold. I never thought about it like that. Like, cause yeah, if I'm watching the clock, I don't get anything done. I can be getting everything done and then I'm going to be late because I'm not paying attention to the clock. So that has already shown up in my regular life with my boyfriend over the weekend when we were trying to get ready to go on a date. So that was a huge, huge thing for me. And then, the other thing is that we literally, a friend of mine that was with us, we literally, while we were still at Family Reunion, created an office KW ADHD page for our office. And we're meeting on Friday to figure out how we can, maybe have the training room for body doubling at certain times a week or different things happening for the agents in our office because we have over 600 agents in our office. And I literally put the link out yesterday and it's already over 30 people have joined our group. So that's been huge for us and trying to figure out how to run that. And I love your multiple time blocking schedules thing that you were just talking about. That's going to change my life right there too, because that is a struggle that I have as well. So anyway, those are my little tidbits that I
Thank you.
got out of all of this.
Thank you. That's so cool. So it might be time. So again, thank you for like spreading the word, right? Because we haven't had a huge platform yet. I think after Jay, I think we hopefully will on the main stage next year. So it's there are people doing like little ones in our office. So it might be time to like kind of expand or create branches. And I mean, again, I do everything for free. So if you want to reach out to me, if there's a way that we could do that and kind of create a structure around it to help more people. Yeah, that's amazing.
Absolutely. I'm the productivity coach here in our office. And so we're in Kansas City. We have several offices with similar ownerships and things. So if it works here, we will spread it around here for sure. So
amazing.
Yeah, we both went light bulb. Yes, we need one of this. And so now we got to figure out what it looks like.
Yeah. Well, I've got other people we could kind of connect and see what that would look like. And I'll help. Thank you as a productivity coach too. Like, thank you, because I know some don't quite get it and it can be disheartening. And then other people get it like you're embracing it and it changes so many people.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Amazing. Tanya.
Hello.
Hey.
So, my coach kind of taught me on how to prepare for family reunion because last year I did not have a good time. I got worn out and couldn't focus. And she said, go in a little early so you transition easier. So I flew in on Saturday. I have light sensitivity with my ADHD, so I hate the LED lights. So I wore a hat the entire time. Now, I'm also part of the Keller Williams Real Estate Planner community, actually the regional ambassador for the Southeast region. So I was working the booth, so my hat said Keller Williams Real Estate Planner on it. So I totally looked the part as far as like having all my t-shirt on and everything and comfortable. But that hat really helped. I didn't wear it at night when I went out to eat, but it really helped kind of get that, I don't know, when you have light sensitivity, it's just an extra added stress you don't need.
Totally.
So that really helped me. And she gave me permission because I'm like I got that all or nothing thinking. She gave me permission that says if you're tired and you need to skip a breakout session, you do not have to go to every single breakout session. Don't sweat it. And that going in with that mindset really, really helped. The thing I picked up from the CEO Summit is the YouTube guy. I have a YouTube channel and only 10% of the room raise their hand of having like a YouTube channel. And it made me kind of feel weird because when you're in the YouTube space, you think everybody is in the YouTube space. So that just, I know I need to keep going down that trail. Jay had a wonderful thing in the vision speech. He said, don't wait to buy real estate and give it time. So when people say, is now a good time to buy real estate? The answer is yes, because you can buy it now and give it time. What I loved about our ADHD community was the vulnerability of every single man on that stage. I think everybody teared up.
We all cried.
Yes. And it was, it was beautiful. It touched my heart because you see somebody like Jay on a big stage, and you don't think that I never knew he had ADHD until this year. And I've talked to him more than once prior to that meeting. So to see somebody that you really like look up to and then hear like some of the stories that he struggled with and his son getting him in the right school, that was very touching. So I really, really, really appreciated that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. We all cried. And I'm also had a really, because I like to have representation too, because like 74% of our group are women. I had somebody amazing who had a relative pass away right before. So I'm going to probably feature her on a Tuesday call because she was going to be on the panel too. So we'll bring her back as well. So there'll be more crying and you'll see me cry again as well. And then I'll do this really quick and then we'll go to the next question. So I pulled this up. I wanted to show you. So this was me. So this was, I don't know, 2 years ago. And this was what I brought to the event. So I had sunglasses because I get overstimulated. I'm on the autism spectrum as well. Noise canceling headphones, fidget toys, medication, and then like giving myself grace, like what you said, like You don't have to go to every breakout. Maybe choose a couple if you feel overstimulated or dysregulated. Just that grace instead of got to go to everyone, take notes. So thank you for like being a reminder for that, Tanya, because that's, yeah. So that is awesome. Okay, Aurelia.
Hey, Tyler, I actually didn't go to family reunion this year. I've been going since 2018, and this is the first time I've missed it. But I made a conscious decision to choose a different convention to go to. But being a fan of family reunion, every year you always have a biggest takeaway. I saw this from somebody, in case that you guys, I'm sure you all went to Jamie Kern Lima's speech, right? Um, I saw somebody posted, and this really hit me hard because this hit me over the weekend, like overcoming objection, right? Sometimes we may come across as pushy, but man, if you're really passionate about what you're doing, it takes a crazy amount of grit and focus to really fight for your big why, right? So one of my team members said, objection rejection is just another way or another form of redirection, right? So when we get rejected, which means that that's not for us, but she said she pitched the product that she had created, and he said, women won't buy cosmetics from a woman who looks like you and has your body. And then a decade later, he hired, she was hired to work for this guy, and look at where she's at now, So even though I wasn't there, I think that was there. And then I do miss seeing all the people. Last year I was there, and now we have this core ADHD community that I love so much. I love like Jennifer and Ashley is here. Ashley started that, so great job on that. I do have a question and a comment on one of the things that was mentioned earlier. It says, if you are focused on the time, you cannot focus on the task. If you're focused on the task, you cannot focus on the time. I don't know how many of you guys can resonate to that, because for me, it's the opposite. I cannot work without any time. I mean, I can work without a timer, but I find myself really more efficient when I have a timer. Because if I don't set a timer, like even putting makeup on, I would say, hey, Google, set a timer for 5 minutes, because I will do everything in my power to finish my makeup. Because if I don't set that, okay, now Google is doing it. Because if I don't, I do find myself doing it for 30 minutes. I would linger around. So I don't know. I'm just curious as to how everybody's doing it. Like, I have a time. If I know I have to do something, I set a timer for every single freaking thing.
Yeah, well, and that's, I think, and let me explain, because you're right. Like, I do the same thing, right? You set a timer. So I think what you're doing is right, is you set a timer so you're not focused on the time, in a sense, like you can look at it. So here, let me give some backstory to time and how our brain, because our brain processes time differently than a non-ADHD person. And we actually see time. Some people explain it like they see time as like this way, and we see it this way. And I need to look more of how to explain this, but we, like studies show, we have trouble gauging how long things take or how long it's been. And so for them, they almost have something in their brain that can kind of gauge, oh, it's been about 5 minutes, about 10 minutes, or, oh, this is going to take 10 minutes, it's going to take 15 minutes, something like that, where we don't. And so us like focusing on time, if you take that literally, it's like, it's really hard. It's almost like a learning disability. Like, we can't totally gauge how long, if it's been 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whereas the timer is doing, it's like out externally doing it for us. We can look, oh, I've got 3 minutes. Oh, I've got 5 minutes. So I think that's the way that I took that, is like, we're not manually trying to gauge time, but a non-ADHD person could. So if we have a timer, because we also have there's what you'll see with our traits is that there's a silver lining to almost all of them as well. So this inability to gauge time and being late, the flip side is we can get lost. Have you ever had that? Like, we can just get lost in something, and it's like, I get goosebumps. Like, we're so present. People don't experience like time the way we do. They can't get lost in things. I don't know if you've had a movie or music, or you're just outside or in nature or something. We get so lost in it, like time doesn't exist if we really let go. And if you have a timer, and people without ADHD don't experience that. They're like, like in the back of their head, it's like, oh, it's probably been an hour or two. Whereas we're like, I don't even know how old I am right now, So there's
I'm 24.
yeah. So when you have traits that show up again, you're getting compared to non-ADHD people, and people without ADHD experience what we experience. Sometimes we experience it all the time or almost all the time, and it's more, I mean, strong or severe, right? So everyone forgets things sometimes. Everyone has trouble time blocking. Everyone has trouble organizing. Sometimes everyone procrastinates. Everyone has emotion regulation stuff. So then if they see you, especially if you had at least one parent that didn't have ADHD, and they're like, oh, you just need to try harder. You need to focus. You need to just chunk it down, because that's what works for them. That's the only point of reference. And then it doesn't work for you. And they're like, oh my gosh, you're not trying, are you? Like, try harder. But our brain's like, there's no dopamine. There's no fuel. And then it's just this freaking shame spiral that we just get buried in. And then a lot of us can be perfectionists and people pleasers and have deep down self-esteem issues, because this person we really trust that really cares about us has then like not understood, and it's looked like we haven't tried. So there's a lot of, like, when you first get a diagnosis, there's some grief. It's really normal. If you're just finding that out, grief is really normal of what your life could have been like, forgiving yourself or understanding things, and it can be heavy. Once you get through the grief, which you will, there's a peace, and I just get so emotional. I just, like, this is what I live for, is like seeing really beautiful people be able to like unmask and like really share their gifts. Because when you're just buried in shame, you're not helping people the way that you could. You're not sharing your light. You're not in the community the way you can. And so when you recognize nothing's wrong with you, and somebody put in the comments like, no, you're not broken, you're not broken at all. You've just been put to neurotypical standards, and it's not their fault and it's not your fault, because there's just still people don't understand. Like, there's still new studies around this, especially if you're a woman. Women may have to mask a little bit more. There might be a little bit less leeway on the hyperactivity, or it might show up differently, where maybe you're not hyperactive externally, your body's calm, but it's an internal chatter that doesn't quiet, right? So you're not hyperactive, you're not bouncing around, but inside there's this internal chatter, and meditation doesn't work, anxiety meds don't work, and it just, and they might get misdiagnosed as something else, bipolar, so yeah. And then, yeah, like Diana said, wondering what your life would have been like. It's a real emotion, and it's good to hold space for that, because once you get through the grief, then there's acceptance, and then there's peace, and then now it gets really fun, and it's just like this stillness and this calm, I know for me, that I've never had before. And then you get to do things the way that work for you, and your energy level gets going, and your anxiety goes down, and your depression goes down, and your relationships get better, and you get to teach the loved ones around you how your brain works, and they see it's a real thing, and then they support you. So if you're in the grief or you're in the shame, I want you to know it's going to get so much better. But sometimes you have to go through the grief and the shame first to get to the other side, because you've got to unpack that and release that. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Bert.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so, okay, I probably need to stop talking, but so worth it. So anyways, I care so much. I think you can tell, like, what is wrong with me? I just care so much, and you made my whole week, because I've been sick and tired of watching movies. But yeah, I trust that this helped, and you can always reach out. Lots of wonderful people in there. And then, yeah, we do them every Tuesday at 4 p.m. And yeah, just reach out if you need anything. We care. So thank you for everybody that shared an aha. And we'll see you next week or in our Facebook groups. So, all right, take care, everybody.